Hi guys, it's me Terry of the Yarnjoy podcast. Welcome back to another tutorial. This is part 11 of the Baby Educational Ball tutorial series. Thank you Patricia Heller, who designed this pattern, for allowing me to make a tutorial of how to make this project. Okay, so today's tutorial we are going to be making the snail panel. So we need one of our finished panels, okay? We also need some yarn for the snail's body. I'm just going to use this off-white piece of yarn, scrap ball of yarn. I am using a number 3 weight yarn for my projects. You want to use the same weight yarn throughout the whole entire project, and the same hook size as well. Okay, so for the yarn, like I said, we need this neutral color for the body, okay, and then I'm going to use these two colors for my snail's shell, okay, because it's going to be like a spiral type design where we're going to alternate colors, and so I picked out these two colorful yarn. I think it's Lion Brand Bonbons is where this yarn came from, and it's just what I've had in my bag of yarn that I had picked out for this project. Okay, let's see what else. You're also going to need a very small amount of black just to stitch on a couple of eyes on the snail. Okay, let's see. We're going to need I'm going to use a 3mm hook. Just use whatever hook you've been using throughout this project. You want to stay with the same hook size. Darning needle to sew on your piece onto the panel. You're also going to need a stitch marker, pair of scissors, and to finish it off, you're going to need a very small amount of a sew-on Velcro closure to hold the shell closed, but I am not going to be putting that on mine at this moment, because I think what I'm going to do, like I did with the carrot, is I'm going to put the ball together, and then once I stuff it and see how the panels stretch and where everything is will lay flat, you know, on the piece, and then I will go ahead and attach the Velcro pieces to my panel. Okay, I think that is all as far as material. You won't need any stuffing for this video. Okay, so getting started, pick one of the two yarns that you have gathered for your two colors for your shell. Pick one of them, whichever one you want, for the very center of the spiral, and make a magic ring. You can also put a slip knot, connect the yarn to your hook with a slip knot, chain 2, and then work in the second chain from the hook if you prefer to do that instead of a magic ring. Okay, so into this magic ring, or that second chain from the hook, if you're doing it that way, you want to make 6 single crochets. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now, with the 6th one, instead of completing that stitch all together, okay, I inserted my hook, yarned over, pulled up a loop, just like I'm doing my single crochet, but instead of completing it with this yarn that I'm using, I'm going to join my next color. Now you can take the tail of your magic circle and then go ahead and start tightening that up a little bit to form that ring, okay? And then take your second color, leave a pretty good sized tail, okay? That way it just won't slip through while you're working on it, okay? Yarn over using that new color, pull that through those 2 remaining loops of your the single crochet you were creating, okay? Pull on the first color to snug that down a little bit, and that completes round 1, okay? Now, going on to round 2, and you should have 6 stitches around that circle, okay? Okay, going on to round 2, we're going to just go right into the next stitch, and we're going to do 2 single crochets in each stitch all the way around. So here's 1 single crochet and 2 single crochets in that first stitch, okay? Then you want to take your stitch marker and you want to place your stitch marker into the first of those 2 stitches that you just made. Okay. Okay. Now, going around your circle, you're going to do 2 stitches in 2 single crochets in each stitch all the way around remaining. So at the end, you'll have 12 single crochets. I'm going to finish mine and I will meet you at the end when I get back to the marker. Okay, so I'm almost at the end of my, almost back to the marker. I have 1 stitch left I need to work into, but what I'm going to do is go ahead and try to clean up the back a little bit, because it's, to me, that's very confusing to have so many tails hanging back there. So what I want to do is I'm going to take my beginning tail of the green that I just added, and I'm going to take the tail after, that I tightened up my magic circle with, okay, which was the very beginning tail. Not the working yarn, but the one that's not connected to anything of my first color. And I'm going to tie those 2 together in a knot, so then I can trim them short and get them out of my way. I think that'll be a lot easier for you to see what we're doing, and it won't confuse me with all the tails in the back. So I'm going to just snip those 2 short. Make sure you're not snipping the wrong ends, the working tails that you're working on. But I think that'll help where you can see what I'm doing a whole lot better. Okay, so now I have 1 more remaining stitch around on round 1, so let's go ahead and complete that one. And remember, we're working 2 single crochets into each stitch around, so I've got to put 2 remaining single crochets into this last stitch. Okay, so there's 1, and now going to my second one, I'm going to get ready to change back to the blue color. And so you start it off just like regular. Okay, you insert your hook, pull up a loop, and then instead of yarning over and pulling through those 2 loops to finish our single crochet, I'm going to drop my second color, this green, okay, back behind my work, and then I'm going to pick up the blue from the beginning, okay, and then I'm going to yarn over and pull through the 2 loops to complete that last single crochet. And I've also completed a color change. Now you can take that green, or the one that you just dropped, and you can tighten that up a little bit in the back, see? Okay, so now we are ready to go on to round 3. Okay, we have 12 stitches around our circle now, so let's go ahead and take off our marker so we can reposition it. Going on to round 3, it says we're going to do, oh, and at the end of each round we're going to do a color change, just like I just did, okay, because every round it's going to be alternating colors, and so we're going to do that color change in our last stitch of the round, just like I showed you, like that. Okay, so going on to round 3, it says we're going to do 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 1 single crochet in the next stitch, and we're going to do that all the way around. And so right now we have a stitch count of 12. When we get finished with this round, we should have a stitch count of 18. Okay, so going on to the first stitch, we're going to do 2 single crochets into that stitch, 1 and 2. Okay, we're going to take our marker and put it into the first stitch of those 2 that we just made. And now we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next stitch. Okay, now we're going to repeat that sequence all the way around. Okay, so 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 1 and 2, and 1 single crochet in the next stitch. Okay, so repeat that sequence all the way around, and I will meet you when I get back to the marker and do the color change to change back to the green. Okay, see you in a bit. Okay, I'm almost back to the marker. I've got 1 stitch left remaining, so I'm going to do that the same way I have been doing to make my color change, where I'm going to start off with a regular single crochet. Okay, doing it the regular way, have 2 loops on my hook, but now I'm going to drop my first color and pick up my second color. Now you will have to arrange these because these colors are going to get a little bit twisted. So not too bad. Okay, so now I'm going to pick up my second color and complete that single crochet by pulling through those 2 loops on my hook. I'm going to tug, or yeah, I'm going to And I'm going to tug on the blue color to just tighten up that stitch, okay? And now I have 18 stitches around my circle, okay? Okay, going on to round 4, we're going to continue on this same manner, changing colors at the end of each round. Going on to round 4, we're going to do 2 single crochets in the first stitch and then 1 single crochet in each of next 2 stitches. So I'm going to take out my marker so I can reposition it. I'm going to go right into the next stitch and I'm going to make 2 single crochets, 1 and 2. Okay, and now I'm going to replace my stitch marker into the first stitch of the 2 single crochets that we just made. And now I'm going to go on. So I did 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 1 single crochet in the next stitch, and 1 single crochet in the next stitch, okay? So you're going to repeat that sequence all the way around. So it's going to be 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 1 and 2, 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches, 1 in that one, and then 1 in the next one, okay? Repeat that sequence all the way around, and I will meet you up when I get back to the marker. Okay, I am back to the marker again. I've got this partial single crochet here. This is the last one, and I'm getting ready to change colors again, okay? So dropping my second color, picking up my the first color, which is the blue. I'm going to finish the single crochet in that last stitch for on that round, okay? And then I'm going to pull on the color that I just dropped just to snug up the stitch. Okay, now I have a stitch count of 24 stitches all the way around my circle. Okay, going on to round 5, we're going to continue increasing, and so I'm going to take out my marker. Going on to round 5, we're going to do 2 single crochets in the first stitch and then 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches. Okay, so 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 1 and 2. Put my marker in the first stitch of the 2 that I just made. Now I'm going to do 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So 1 in the next one, 1 in the next one, and 1 in the next one. Okay, so 3 of them. And then continue this sequence all the way around. 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 1 and 2, 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, continue that sequence all the way around. I'll meet you at the marker. Okay, I'm back to the marker again. I have 1 more stitch to complete, so I'm going to do 1 single crochet into that stitch, but I'm going to do a partial single crochet so then I can finish it with the next color because I'm changing colors. Okay. Picking up my next color, just dropping the first color at the back, I'm going to finish that single crochet, which finishes that round. I'm going to tug on the first color just to tighten up the stitch. And now I have 30 stitches all the way around my circle. Okay, going on to round 6, I'm going to take out my marker here so I can reposition it. On to round 6, we're going to do 2 single crochets in the first stitch and then 1 single crochet each in the next 4 stitches. So into the first stitch we're going to do 2 single crochets, 1 and 2. And then in the first stitch, I'm going to, the first of those 2 stitches I just made, I'm going to put my marker. Continuing on, I'm going to do 1 single crochet each in the next 4 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and so we're going to repeat that sequence all the way around. So 2 single crochets in the next stitch, 1 and 2, and then 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches. We're going to repeat that sequence all the way around until we get back to the marker, and I will meet you there. Okay, so I'm coming back to the marker again. I have 1 more stitch there to make before I get to the marker, and as always we're going to be doing a partial single crochet where we draw up the loop and have 2 loops on our hook like that. And then we're going to change color back to the first color, finish off that single crochet, tighten down our color that we just dropped in the back. Okay, and that ends round 6, and at the end of round 6 we should have 42, no, I'm sorry, at the end of round 6 we're going to have 36 stitches all the way around our circle. Okay, going on to round 7, take out our marker, and it says 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 1 single crochet in the next 5 stitches, okay? So going into the first stitch, we're going to do 2 single crochets in the first stitch. So 1 and 2. Put our marker back into the first of those 2 stitches that we just made. Okay, and now single crochet in 1 time in each of the next 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, okay? And now we're going to repeat that sequence. 2 single crochets in the next stitch, 1 and 2, and then 1 single crochet in the next 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and then repeat that sequence all the way around, and I will meet you when I get back to the marker. Okay, so I've gotten back to the marker, and I am just about to complete my last single crochet before that marker, and this is where I'm going to do the color change just like I've been doing each round. So I dropped my blue, and now I'm going to pick up my green to finish my single crochet and do my color change. So I'm going to tug on that color that I just dropped in the back to tighten it down, tighten that stitch down. And then, so now we're at the end of round 7. At the end of round 7, you will have 42 stitches around your circle now. Okay. Going on to round 8, we're going to take out our marker. We're going to do 2 single crochets in the next stitch, 1 single crochet each in the next 6 stitches, and we're going to do that all the way around. So going into the first stitch, we're going to do 2 single crochets into that stitch, 1 and 2, and then we're going to put our marker back into that first stitch of those 2 that we just made. And then going on, we're going to do 1 single crochet each in the next 6 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? And we're going to repeat that sequence all the way around. We're going to do 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 1 and 2, and then 1 single crochet each in the next 6 stitches, and then we're going to repeat that all the way around, and I will meet you when I get back to the marker. Okay, so I'm almost back to the marker. I've got 1 stitch left, so we're going to again do a partial single crochet so we can do a color change in that last stitch. So drop a loop where you have 2 loops on your hook, and then we're going to drop that first color, pick up the green color, and pick up your first color, which was mine was the blue color, and finish the single crochet. Okay, now I'm going to tug on the color I dropped so that way I can tug down that stitch, snug it up. Okay, going on to the last round, so we now have 48 stitches all the way around our circle. We have 1 more round to go. So we're going to do, which will be round 9. So we're going to take our marker out. We're going to do 2 single crochets into the next stitch. So 1 and 2. Put your marker in the first of those 2 stitches that you just made. And now I'm going to do 1 single crochet each in the next 7 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and we're going to repeat that sequence all the way around. We're going to do 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 1 and 2, and then 1 single crochet each in the next 7 stitches, repeating that sequence around, and I will meet you when I get back to the marker. Okay, so I'm right at the end of round 9, and now we're not going to have to do another color change since this is the end of our rounds, or the end of the piece that we're making. So in this last stitch, we're just going to do a regular single crochet, okay, keeping the same color. Okay, now I'm going to replace my then I'm going to take my marker out. You should now have a stitch count of 54 stitches all the way around your circle. Okay, and now I'm just going to do a slip stitch in my very first stitch that I made, to finish off the round and connect it, okay? Okay, so I do want to leave a tail. I snipped off the green one, which is the other color that I was using, and then I do want to leave a tail of this outer color, but I only need to leave just a smaller tail. I'm going to use it to sew onto my panel, but we're only going to sew like one side of the shell. We're not going to go all the way around it, so that way the shell can lift up, okay? So I don't have to leave a super long tail. Okay, just enough to sew in that one, sew on that one side, okay? Well, I did do a slip stitch to join, so all I have to do now is just pull my yarn through to fasten off, okay? Okay, so we are finished with the snail's shell, and now we can go on to the snail's body. Okay, going on to the next part of our snail, we are now going to make the snail's body. And so I'm taking my yarn that I'm going to be using for the body, and I'm going to start with the magic circle, and as always you can chain 2 and then work in the second chain from the hook. But I'm going to use a magic circle or magic ring, and I'm going to make 6 single crochets into the magic ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, and now I'm going to pull the starting tail just to cinch up my circle or my ring. Okay, now so in this first round we have 6 single crochets. Okay, going on to round 2, we're going to do 2 single crochets in each stitch around. So and we're not joining round, so we're going to go right into that first stitch, and we're going to do 2 single crochets, 1 and 2. And then we're going to put our stitch marker in the first stitch of those 2 that we just made. And going around the circle here, continuing on, we're going to do 2 single crochets in each of the remaining stitches around, and I will meet you when I get back to the marker. Okay, I'm back to the marker, and that is the end of round 2. At the end of round 2, you will have 12 stitches all the way around your circle. Taking my marker out. Going on to round 3, we're going to do 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 1 single crochet in the next stitch. So going right into the first stitch, we're going to do 2 single crochets, 1 and 2. Putting a marker back into the first stitch of those 2 that we just made. Okay, and then going around, I'm going to do 1 single crochet in the next stitch. Okay, and then I'm going to repeat that sequence. So 2 single crochets in the next stitch, 1 and 2. And then 1 single crochet in the next stitch. Repeat that sequence all the way around, and I will meet you when we get back to the marker. Okay, I've got back to the marker. We now have 18 stitches all the way around our circle. Going on to round 4, we're going to take our marker out, and then we're going to go right into the first stitch and do 2 single crochets, 1 and 2. And then we're going to take our marker and put it back into the first stitch of those 2 that we just made. And going on, we're going to do 1 single crochet each in the next 2 stitches, so 1 and 2. Okay, and then we're going to repeat that sequence all the way around. So we're going to do 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 1 and 2, 1 single crochet each in the next 2 stitches, 1 and 2. Okay, repeat that sequence all the way around, and I will meet you when we get back to the marker. Okay, I'm back to the marker again. We now have a total of 24 stitches around our circle. Going on to the next round, I'm going to take my marker out, and going right into the first stitch, I'm going to make 2 single crochets, 1 and 2. Put my marker back into the first of those 2 stitches that we just made. And then going on, I'm going to do 1 single crochet each in the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and now repeating that sequence, we're going to do 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 1 and 2, and then 1 single crochet each in the next 3 stitches, so 1, 2, 3. Okay, repeat that sequence all the way around, and I will meet you when we get back to the marker. Okay, so I've got all the way around the marker, and I'm back to the marker again, and that is the end of round 5. And at the end of round 5, you should have 30 stitches all the way around your circle, okay? And then that is the end of the increase rounds. We're just going to do a partial round in the next in this next round to finish off. So in round 6, I'm going to take my marker out, and then in round 6, we're just going to do we're just going to be working in the first 8 stitches of this round, and in each stitch we're going to do 5 double crochets, okay? So going right into the first stitch, I'm going to do 5 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, okay? And so we're going to do that 7 more times in the next 7 stitches, okay? You're going to do 5 double crochets in each of those next 7 stitches, and then we're going to, that will be the end of this round, okay? So that will be a total of 40 double crochets that you're going to be making, okay? Okay, so I just completed my 40 double crochets, which was 5 double crochets each in those 8 stitches, the first 8 stitches in round 6. And so now I'm just going to fasten off by putting a slip stitch into the very next stitch on my round, just a slip stitch. And I am going to need some yarn to sew this onto the center of my panel, and so I want to make sure that I have a long tail for that. Okay, and since I did a slip stitch, I can just pull my yarn all the way through to fasten off. Just tighten that down. Okay, and now I am ready to, and so now I am ready, I almost forgot, we have to put the little eyes on here, stitch on little face, okay? So I'm going to take my black yarn and my yarn needle, I'm thinking that this black yarn might be a little bit too thick. Now this is some sport weight yarn that I have that's black, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this. See what I'm doing? I'm dividing it in half there. And so that way, you know, in other words, I took just half the strands of the black to make it skinnier, okay? Or finer. And now I'm going to yarn my needle with that. Okay. Okay, and I'm just going to refer to the picture in the pattern as far as where to stitch on an eye, or 2 eyes rather. Looks like it is starting between rows 2 and 3, so 1, 2, right about here. And I'm just going to make a few stitches here to make an eye. Maybe 3 stitches. Okay, and then just referring to the picture, it looks like she skipped over about 2 or 3 stitches and then made the second eye. So let's see. I think I'm going to skip over 2 stitches, and then I'm going to just stitch on the second eye the same way. Okay, and now on hers, she doesn't have a mouth for the snail, but if you want to make it a more friendly snail, you can always put a little smile on there. Okay. I think I'm going to put a little smile on there, just following the stitches around there at the bottom between round 1 and 2. Okay, there. A little bit crooked. Let me add a little bit on this side. Okay, that looks pretty good. There. So now he has a cute little smile, a little lopsided smile, but I think that's okay. Okay. So now I'm just going to tie the black yarn, the two ends together, the beginning tail and the ending tail, and just tie it in a knot. You're not going to see this back side because it's going to be stitched onto the panel. Sorry, I'm working black on black. It's going to be harder for you to see that, but it's just stitching on the eyes, so, and the mouth. Trim it short. Okay. So there is our little snail body. Now I'm going to weave in this beginning tail here where the magic circle was, and then I'm going to use this end to sew the body onto our panel here. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and center my little snail on there. And since these ruffles here, I think what I'm going to do is not worry about sewing them down. So actually, I just want to go around the circle part of the body. Just stitching through the thickness of the body of the snail and the back of the panel here. Just like that. And you can just use your thumb to hold down the snail centered on the panel, or you could use some pins if you prefer and pin on the body to hold it in place while you're doing the sewing. But you're just going to go in and out all the way around the body. And then when I get to where these ruffles are at the bottom of the body, I'll probably just pull these forward like this and then sew down that body, the body piece, and just leave the ruffled part of the body free. Okay, like that. So let me sew this on, and then I will meet you when I get that done. Okay, meet you back. Okay, so I got the snail's body sewed onto the panel, okay, and now I'm going to take the shell. I went ahead and weaved in the my green color, the one that I'm not going to be using to sew on the sew the shell on. I went ahead and weaved it in the back because since this is not going to be sewed down all the way completely, I wanted the back to look pretty good. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and yarn up my needle with the tail of the shell here to sew this on, and then I'm going to place the shell over the top of my snail, okay, to try to figure out the placement where I'm wanting it to, because you want it to cover up the snail, the door. And so I'm making sure that I've got it where I want it to be connected, okay, so that it'll open up and you can see the little snail. And remember, you're going to use some Velcro, a little Velcro closure or snap or something, or whatever you want to use for your closure. And so you're going to need room on this side if you're going to do it where you're connecting the shell on the whichever side you're going to connect the shell onto, the opposite side where you're going to open it, you want to have room to put that little Velcro connector or whatever you're going to use to fasten the shell down, okay? Okay, so I think that's about where I want to put it, so I'm just going to pinch that side to hold it closed. You can always pin it down, is fine. but I'm just going to stitch on this one flat side, okay, as my hinge to the shell, and then the rest of the shell I'm going to leave free. So you just do in and out down that one side. You can get it about halfway done and then check it to make sure your placement is still where you're wanting it. Okay. And then finish up that, just that one section there. It's going to be like the door hinge. Okay. Check it to make sure that's where you're going to want it. That's good. Okay, so I'm going to fasten off the back here, and then, like I said, I am not going to put my Velcro closure on right at this moment. You would put it like on this side, on one side, and then it's mate to the side of the shell. Okay, but I'm going to wait because I'm thinking that it may stretch some once I get it stuffed, just like I did the carrot piece with the lettuce leaves, and so I will apply my fastener once I get the ball put together and stuffed, so that way I know that the fastener is going to be in the right place. Okay, so that is all of this for this panel. I hope you enjoyed this one. I think he's cute. I really like the little smile I put on him. Okay, so that is the end of the tutorial, guys. I hope you're enjoying following along with this tutorial series, and I will be back as soon as I can for the next piece. I am in the middle of kind of remodeling my craft room at the moment, so but I wanted to jump on here and get another one of these installments made for this baby educational ball. So thanks, guys, for watching. Have a great day, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.